Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. This is the Voices of Healing podcast. I'm your host, Tina Clark. I'm a shamanic Reiki master teacher. Today's guest is Catherine Crestani. She's a leadership coach and an author and a speaker. And we're going to start out today's episode talking about the importance of intuition and how to identify your intuition and work with it. But before we get into that, I would love Catherine to tell us more about her and her background and what kind of work she does.
Thank you, Tina. I'm very excited to have this conversation. We were already talking about things before we even hit record because we're like, yeah, intuition. um, so my background is as a speech language pathologist. So for years, I've run two very successful companies. I sold both of them. One was in a business partnership and my business partner put me out, and one was a company I built from the ground up. And the partnership was actually a 7-figure company, and the company I built from the ground up was a 6-figure company. So I know how to build business. But the problem was through my whole career, I never felt fulfilled. So I was constantly searching for the next big thing. I was, especially when I was running my own company and even in the business partnership, I was always searching for something bigger, but it was never rewarding me. And I realized recently that it was because I had a CEO mindset and I wasn't in an entrepreneur mindset. Because the difference is when you're an entrepreneur, you build a business that you love and you're passionate about, you don't mind doing the extra hours and things like that. But when you've built a business that is for everyone else and to serve everybody, you end up with chronic stress, burnout, panic attacks, anxiety. And that was my story. Like, I was in adrenal fatigue. I was heading for an autoimmune disease. And it was through part of that when it was getting to the peak, we went through the lockdowns and everything and my still survived, active, thrived because we found ways to keep working in allied health and we stayed open. And because of that, so people into our clinic. It was really interesting. And through all that, I was still like, what is this niggling? And then I would see my naturopath every week, who would give me a box of supplements to basically stay alive and survive. I have to keep my stress and cortisol to that point that it was still manageable. And I still remember every time I would take time off or every time I would have it down in a stress period, I would always get sick because my system was running so high all the time. It never got a chance to recoup. It never got a chance. And then when it did, I had to flush everything out. And that often ended up me, instead of spending my time off enjoying it, I would be unwell and have to recover from that. So from that, I remember going to booking with him one day, and then he's like, hey, I said, oh, I noticed that your partner is actually offering this new offering, like this new service. And he's like, you should do it. And my gut instinct just went, yeah, okay. I just booked in straight away. And what it ended up being was we had sessions every 2 weeks, and it started my spiritual awakening. And what it did was, like, it was coming home, Tina. It was like coming home back to myself and realizing, oh my goodness, this is what I've been looking for. This feels more aligned with life and my path. And through that, part of my dark night of the soul, so if anyone's listening doesn't know what that is, it's basically a let go of things that don't serve you, and it does it the universe does it in quite a dramatic way. And I say there's round 1, round 2, round 3, because there's layers you have to clear of it. So my dark night of the soul was actually my company started to fall apart. So I had to start leaving. So the first time I had 3 resign within a week, and it's really hard to find really good quality allied health staff. So I was like, I was there trying to look after my health at that point. I knew I had to pull back. So I'm on the ground rocking, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to cover all this caseload, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember my husband and my son in front of me going, it's okay, like, just stop. And I'm like, no, it's too much. I can't take this anymore. And then my guides just, like, one of them leaned down in front of me and went, get up. Like, it was just get up. And I'm like, no, you can get up and keep going. And then a month later, another 3 resigned. And then I was like, what is, I still hadn't replaced the first 3. They were finishing up. I still had to find, now I had to find another 3. And I remember going up to this place that I meditate and just yelling yelling how angry I was at the universe, because I was like, I'm doing all the things and now you've got like my staff leaving again. Anyway, but I wasn't broken, right? I wasn't on the floor. And then a month later, another three resigned. And
Why three at a time?
I don't know. That's what I was like. Why always three? But I laugh about it now because I can. But by the time I got to that point, I didn't care anymore. I was like, okay, these people are meant to be in my life, and I'm meant to sell this company. And I still remember I was meditating, and I went up with my guy, and I was like, hey, I'm ready to sell the company. And they're just there with a slow clap. Like, yeah, you finally figured it out. Like, this is not your journey. So then once that happened and I found a really beautiful person to take over the company, but then things changed and I was there working and contracting, and I didn't believe I was worthy of the money I received. So subconsciously found a way to get rid of it. I did hold on to it, wasn't using it to serve my purpose and my journey. And then I had to face my own worst story, living paycheck to paycheck, which if is listening and is living that way, I fully understand, but there is a way out of it. You just end up being really savvy and you find ways and you learn like of a lot of things. And this was really a journey of trust. And even quite recently, like just last week, I finished 9 to 5 because my intuition whispered about a month before that saying, you need to quit. Like it was just a solid quit. That's what I had. No argument, no, don't fight this or anything. And what was happening, because I was staying in that position because of fear, where's the money going to come from? I was actually starting to go numb because I was numbing myself being there because I didn't want to keep working. That job wasn't filling me. It wasn't like filling up my cup. And I started getting numbness in my hand and my face. And now I have been, days? This is like the first full week, and it's within 2 days of me fully leaving the position, the numbness completely has gone, not even a sign of it being there. So, and 2 weeks after I quit, like the numbness went away. It came back a little bit but differently, and I was like, okay, this is me just saying that I needed to step out of there. Otherwise, that risk of that autoimmune I was heading for before was going to rear its head back up. So, lots of things of just trusting what comes up and following that breadcrumbs and those trails.
Yeah, I had a similar story because I used to work for the government as a policy analyst, and every job I moved to got worse and worse. I thought, oh, this is going to be better. This person's going to be a better boss, or this is going to be, and it just got, and the very last job I had, I found out some things going on in the office that were illegal. So once they learned, oh, she knows, and I was within my 1-year probation, so they could just fire me. They made sure I got fired within a year. But what happened is I ended up with appendicitis and my appendix burst.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though, I've always been a sensitive person, like empathic, and I know that I pick up on things more than other people, but I'm not dumb. And so I was like, okay, universe, you're telling me don't do this anymore. I get it. I'm not gonna do this anymore. I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, I had just gotten married like 2 years before. And I said, oh, well, I guess I'll focus on having a family now because I don't know what I'm doing, but the universe will kind of tell you which way to go. And I don't think it's supposed to be really painful, and if it's becoming painful, it's because you're resisting something, or, you don't want to let go of your beliefs or your attachment to the outcome or whatever it is. But yeah, so it happened to me too.
I agree. And I agree so much with what you said, Tina. Like, it's when you resist that it's more painful. So even leaving, I remember, because we're selling our house, so I put this condition on leaving work that when the house sells, then I'll leave. But what I did, like, I still remember giving my resignation to my boss, and it said on there that when the house sells, I'll leave. But then I actually remember feeling like this isn't enough. And my intuition's like, no, you need to pick a date. And I knew the date. I knew the date in my heart. It was like I stayed a month or even maybe 2 months longer than I had to or should have. And it was, I felt like it was a sellout. And then I realized, because our house didn't sell, and I felt it would be really quick because it was an intuitive thing to put it up for sale as well. But then I realized I put conditions on the house selling. When you do that and put conditions on things, the universe won't let it align for you because you're not allowing that natural flow and you're not allowing the energy where it to go. So then similarly, my husband had put a condition on it saying like, I'll go back to work when the house sells and, and when we move. Whereas I got to that point where I'm like, no, you need to just go back to work now. And he was very resistant to that. And now it's like he's nearly done his first week back. And he's like calming down and like, okay, I can feel things shifting. Like I can feel things starting to reopen again and move again in our favor because we put all these conditions on making something happen. But the universe doesn't like conditions. It's a thing. If you put a condition on, I'll quit my job when I have enough money, or I'll go on that holiday when I get to goal, whatever it might be. It's never going to happen because you put a condition on it. And I think that's the big thing that a lot of us find really hard. And often it takes a lot of courage to step into that unknown without putting that condition with it.
Oh, yeah. I just thought of another example that happened to me, but it tends to happen as a physical symptom, But like when I moved to South Carolina in 2016, we bought a nice house. The schools were nearby. Then we realized, even though it was a good school district, the schools that we were zoned for were the worst of all the schools. And it seemed like it got worse and worse when you got to high school. And my daughter was having problems in middle school just with other kids and their behavior issues. And I talked to my husband. I was like, oh, I don't think her going to this high school is a good idea. And so we went back and forth and back and forth. And, he's like, Tina, I think we need to sell the house and move. And I really didn't want to. Because I don't know if it's like this in your household, but the person that packs and organizes everything is me. So I had just done that 2 years prior, and I didn't want to do it again. Well, guess what happened? I got the shingles. So I called up. I was like, what the heck? I called up my for a card reading with one of my energy healing teachers, And I was like, pull some cards for me. I said, what tell me about this move? And she's pulling cards. She's like, everything I'm pulling has got Archangel Michael on it. And I was like, okay. And she's like, I'd see like, yes, you need to move. She's like, I see you in a house and there's water and there's a lot of windows, which describes my exact house right now. And there's breeze blowing through. And she's like, I just think you need to do it. I know you don't want to do it, but the cards say go do it. And I was like, fine. So I did it. We did it. But if I resist too much, I end up having some odd symptom, or shingles. I mean, so everybody's like,
exactly.
Is your immune system compromised? I'm like, no, my immune system's fine.
Well, shingles are fun when you go through a really high period of stress and it shows up a few weeks later, which you would perfectly describe because you're fighting this kind of instinct almost to move, but then the idea of moving is too much, and then that you need something better for your daughter, but at the same time you're fighting internally, and that's when the shingles tend to show up. Because I had a similar experience happen with me. And it was about like standing up for rights and things like that, and the organization that was meant to back me was actually one of the people trying to silence me. So it was really that it ended up being quite a stressful period, and then I broke out in like shingles. So same thing. But it was funny because I rang up my naturopath and I was like, hey, I've got this rash. And he's like, take a photo of it? And I was like, yeah. He goes, does it hurt? I'm like, yeah, it's really painful. He's like, I never say this lightly, but you need to go to a doctor right now. And I'm, oh, okay. And then it was so weird, like in this doctor's appointment, because I was so calm about it. And I fully understood where it comes from. I fully like knew I'd be okay. I got it to the point, like got it early enough that I could just have the antiviral and it would be all right. And like the doctor and he's like, oh yeah, you definitely have shingles. Here's the prescription. He goes, and then we just had a chat for like 10 minutes about speech pathology and things like that. It was the most bizarre experience. Just like, yeah, you'll be right. I'm like, thanks. It's just, I think because I was so calm, he didn't know what to do. I was like, because we did a phone, because it was COVID, you did the phone consult first before you went in. And I'm on the phone to him. He was like, I'm pretty sure I've got shingles. And he's like, oh, you need to come in. I said, when can I come in? He goes, 10 minutes? I said, okay, I'll be there, because I am 10 minutes away. It was just such an interesting experience, like you said, because when you things, the more your body will start to show it. And for me, like we were talking about intuition, if you block your intuition too much, you get constant sinus problems, because the intuition is like your third eye area, and then you just end up with sinus. So even the way I was like, I've got these weird sinus issues. I said, what are you not listening to for your intuition? And he went, okay. And he knew straight away, like straight away he knew. And our body has so much wisdom in it. It's just we have to be open to listening to it. And even, if something happens, you said shingles, or it might be you end up with appendicitis or whatever it is, most of the time you can trace it back to an emotional cause. And we all have to be grateful for our body having that dis-ease, because if we didn't go into that, we'd probably die, because we suppress emotions. Our body showing us that at that level is actually saying, hey, this is like the last chance you kind of have. You need to pay attention to this, because now you're in like a tragedy, or now you're in an extreme version of it, and you need to start paying attention.
Yeah, and I feel like I've been an energy healer for 11 years. I understand like spirituality and emotional and mental blocks and all of that, but I will admit it that I feel the body is the most mysterious one of all. I think
even the numbness I had, when I was sharing that numbness, like my husband's like, it's all in your head. And I'm like, well, clearly it's not manifested in my body. Like it's deeper than that. It's deeper than just in my head, because my body's feeling it now, and our body has so much wisdom, and part of intuition is actually tuning into that as well.
Yes. So let's talk about what intuition is and how do we tune in better to it, especially for the listeners. If they want to get better at it, how do they even begin?
Yeah, so intuition is this inner voice. It's like your inner wisdom. And it's different from the voice in your head, which people refer to as your ego, because your ego is there to kind of keep you in your zone, because the ego doesn't like change. The ego prefers to be comfortable. It prefers you to stay in the same place, whereas your intuition is straight from your soul, and your soul always wants to grow. It always wants to evolve and keep learning and keep getting bigger. And how people tune into your intuition can be very different, because for me, I might hear a word, I might see something, I might just know. That's the hardest one to learn to trust. You just suddenly know something and you can't explain to anyone how you know it. You just know it, because it's like you've just had this download or this information come up, because your heart knows more than you know. Some people feel it. Sometimes if it's a big no for me, if I'm somebody that's really misaligned, I want to throw up. I'm just like, oh no, these people aren't authentic. This isn't, and the more you tune in, the more fine-tuned your senses get, or the reactions get bigger, I would say, or the intuitive hit get bigger more than reaction, because it's almost like it's really turned down really low, and the more you learn to trust it, the more that volume comes up. So, something that people will often use to start this. So I teach a lot of my clients muscle testing. So muscle testing comes kinesiology, and I use it to test it on myself. And this is how I started to learn to trust my intuition. So I always trusted my, it's different. Your gut instinct's there to keep you safe or to help you make like really spontaneous decisions to keep moving. But your heart is more of a challenge on getting you on where your soul's meant to be heading. So I use like a finger method where I use it. But what I teach my clients, you put like make a loop with your pointy finger, and you never know what your fingers are called, and your thumb, and you hook your other finger through, and then you'll be like, hey, show me yes, show me no, or show me congruent, show me not congruent. And you can do it to like recalibrate each time. And then from there, you start asking questions you know the answer to. Like, it's like, hey, is my name Catherine? Yeah, okay. My name, no. Is my name, am I a female? Yes. Am I a male? No. You know, can I have wine today? No. You know, can I have some chocolate? Yes. You know, you can get really excited about it, but you don't want to use it for big emotional decisions, because if it has an emotional charge, you're not going to get the right response, especially when you're this early in the game and trusting it. If you can't trust that, the other one you can do is like a whole body one where you can stand up and I'm the ball, so I'll actually move anyway. And you just put your hands across your chest and you close your eyes and you're like, hey, body, show me yes, show me no. I don't even know, but yes, I can feel myself moving forward. So you can, it's like a whole body thing. But the important thing too is if you're not getting a reaction, you're probably hydrated, so you need water. So have a glass of water too before you do this. And then how I started trusting my intuition more was using it to ask really mundane questions that did not affect my day, like what I should wear, what I should eat, what jewelry I should put on. And got to a point I was doing it every single day. It made it really quick, Tina, going out to a cafe, because I would narrow it down to a few things. And hey, body, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? Oh, yeah. And I would order something I would never consider. And then I would eat it, and my body would be like, oh, yeah, 100% we wanted that, like that full foodgasm experience, right? So it's funny because when I go out with people who are clients, or like clients slash friends slash my mentor, we order so quickly. Like we're just like done ordering. And I'll go out with people who are like that, and like 20 minutes, they're still looking at the menu. I'm like, okay, close your eyes. What do you see yourself eating? Okay, great. That's what you want.
Yeah,
So,
just
yeah,
go for it. I mean, yeah, I'm one of
exactly.
those people. I look at a menu. I'm the first one who already decided what to eat. You know, I don't spend 10 minutes trying to decide. I mean, what a waste of energy too. Just
Exactly.
whatever pops out at you. You know, you might have one or two dishes and then choose between the two and then just go for it.
Exactly. And it's just a
Yeah.
decision too. And I feel a lot of the time people put so much weight in decisions that they end up in that analysis paralysis. But in the end, a decision is just a decision. You make the decision, you move on, you do the next thing. When you get stuck in a maybe, it's draining your energy. When you're not using your intuition, you get your draining energy. And the thing with this method is when you're using it for your clothes or for what to eat or your jewelry or whatever it is you're choosing, it's actually freeing space as well, because you're not spending all that time and energy making a decision that doesn't really impact the course of your day. You know, it
Right.
doesn't matter if you put the purple skirt on or the blue skirt on, you know, it's just you need to choose some clothing to cover your body today. And it's funny because I have a lot of jewelry with crystals in it, and often I'll be like, oh really, like the obsidian earrings? But then I'll meet a lot of negative people that day, and obsidian's good for deflecting negativity. And I was like, oh, so you just knew, you know. So like
Yeah.
that's how I started getting that reinforcement as well. And then one day I just heard the answer, or I just felt the answer, or I just saw the answer, and knew I didn't have to use it as much anymore. And I'll still use it in my practice, like when I'm working with clients, especially whilst I do leadership coaching, big thing. I do a lot of underlying work to get people to that point too. And it's like that energy work and the healing and the mindset. A lot of it is like tapping in, okay, hang on, where's this emotion coming from that is blocking you from getting to where you need to go? And I'll use my muscle testing to double check that. It's sometimes because I call it like pre-intuition. Like before I start working with someone, I'll kind of get you're probably the same. You kind of start to get an idea of what you have to work on before they even show up, because they've made the appointment, right? And it's like, oh, okay, what am I going to do? And you just know. And sometimes I'll be like in a session and I just double check and I'm like, hang on, is this me putting on them because I had this thought about it, or is this actually was the intuition coming through? So I will use it that way now at like a higher level, but I will never use it for big decisions. But when you get to a point that you can trust your intuition enough, like when I was describing quitting my job and had that inner wisdom come from my heart to say you need to quit, I knew it was true. And I knew if I didn't listen to it, that I'd probably end up in tragedy, or I'm going to get bigger, go further, and it's when you keep suppressing your intuition, you end up with crap happening eventually. It is because you're not walking the soul aligned path. When you're on your aligned things, it's just into play, and it was funny. I was doing a session with my coach last night and we were doing an energy healing, and hatred came. And people are really triggered by hatred, but it is emotion. It's a valid emotion. You can experience, you can feel it, but if you keep suppressing it, it's really hard to move through it. And it was funny, as soon as he said it, because it came up when he was doing the process, I was having this feeling where I felt like someone was hitting the back of my heart. And I was like, what is this? Like, it just showed up every now and then, and I didn't know what it was. It just started to speak. And then as soon as he said hatred, I had that same feeling. I was like, oh my goodness. So as we worked through and let it go, as soon as I let that go, it was like I had this flood of insight to things that I've been being blocked on. Because when we ignore our emotions as well, and even that are perceived as negative, there are no negative emotions. In the end, it's just an emotion. It's just there to show you something's not in alignment. But when you keep ignoring them, then you don't, it's really hard to tap into your intuition as well, because you're ignoring a part of yourself.
Yeah, I feel like also intuition is easier to use with others than with yourself sometimes. Like you said, you felt uncomfortable. You would feel it in your body, like from a very young age. If someone was lying, and it didn't matter if they were in the room with me or on TV, and I would watch the TV and I'd be like, that guy is lying. And I feel uncomfortable right now. So I feel it in my body, and it actually almost feels like nausea when it's really bad.
Yeah, same. And then if I feel someone's trying to put their belief on me, I actually get an itchy nose. That's a new one. So my nose will start to get itchy, and I'm like, oh, why is this person trying to put their beliefs on me? Like, this is really weird. And sometimes it comes up when I'm doing podcasts as well, and I'm like, oh, this is really weird. I'm just here to let you share a story. Like, it's some parts are resonating, some parts aren't. But that's the idea, right? Whenever you share something, it's letting if it lands somebody, it lands. And when you trust your intuition, then you can start using your own discernment. Is this aligning with me? And does I need to change possibly what I'm doing, and being open to that and that willingness to change? Or does this not align with me and I'm just going to let go? It's not about getting angry about it. It's just like, okay, this isn't for me. I'm just going to take the bit that I do want that aligns with me, and I let go of the rest. And it's not doing it from a judgment point of view. It's just like, okay, that's just not for me. That doesn't align for me. So, like we share in you're a Reiki master. I was pulled to look up Reiki, and then I looked at it and I went, actually, this isn't for me, because I say I'm not a hand healer. I do more things energetically and in that realm. But when I looked at it, I'm like, okay, this is for my husband. And it was so funny because just a week before, he's like looking at his hands going, I feel like I need to do something with my hands. I feel like I've always had energy in them. And then sure enough, he went along to this course and he's like, oh my gosh, like so easy. Like he's just like, it was just so easy to do. And I was like, great, because that was for you. So it was again using discernment. I obviously pulled it to it because I was curious, because everyone was talking about Reiki, but it wasn't for me. It was for someone I knew. And that's often, you get to know yourself well enough, you're not going to just do something because everyone's talking about it. You're going to actually sit with it and go, why does it keep coming in? And what is it mean for my journey on my soul path versus everybody else's.
Yeah, like even it could be a little thing like today I had a discussion with my husband on where to go on vacation this summer. And I was, I was throwing out Alaska, and Colorado. Well, later on in the day, I'm driving the kids to the store, and there's a car in front of me with an Alaska bumper sticker. And I turned to my daughter, I said, "Do you think this is a sign?" Which I know it's a sign, I just want her to pay attention to it. She's like, "I think it is." And then her friend in the back was just talking, and he mentioned Colorado, which is another one that we were contemplating, earlier. And I was like, okay, well, this is unclear right now, so I'm going to wait for more signs.
Well, it's so funny because it's like sometimes you get all the signs, but at the same time, if you don't make the moves that you need to do to go on your soul path, the universe won't give you anything, right? So, now you're probably going to go actively look up Alaska, accommodation, things to do versus Colorado to do accommodation. And then you're going to feel more pulled to one thing than the other. And then, so for me, I'm like, if I'm in like kind of situation, then I will ask the universe because it's like, hey, I'm not getting an answer either way. It's like 50-50, and then I'm okay. If I'm meant to go to Alaska, I'm going to see ducks. Or, if I'm meant to go to Colorado, I'm going to see cows. And I still remember listening to this person sharing on a podcast about this. And she's like, it was just before COVID hit, and she was looking at an office space. And she said, it was the day she was meant to sign the contract, and she just had this pull to not do it. Because I don't know what it was. It was just this intuitive hit. I shouldn't sign this contract, but it was everything she wanted. And then she goes, all right, universe, if I'm not meant to sign this contract, show me some cows. And so then she's driving, and for some reason, subconsciously, she went the back way that she used to travel, and she knows cow in this paddock all the time. And she goes, oh, maybe the cow won't be there. And sure enough, the cow is there. She's like, oh, that's just a coincidence. And then in town later that day,
there's no such thing as coincidence.
Exactly. And then later that day, her son's like, hey, check out this new gallery. And then walked in, and she said every painting was of cows.
Oh my God.
So she said no, and then a week afterwards the lockdown started. So she would have signed that rental agreement to have that office space. She is so financially not okay and everything like that. So this is the thing, our intuition and our inner knowing knows more than we do. There's so much research showing that we need to actually start redirecting our decisions to our heart. And they've done all this research, especially the Math Institute. So if everyone's curious, go to heartmath.org. Great research. So they've shown that there's more decision-making receptors in your gut than in your brain. So we've been so conditioned to use our brain first and check in with our logic, whereas actually the last point we should check in. So first we want to check in with our heart, and if our heart's like, yeah, go for it, then we check in with our gut. Now, gut might be, oh, I'm not sure it's safe. You just take a micro risk, right? Like you just pick something little, you go dabble your feet. Yeah, that feels okay. Then your gut will be like, no, that's all right, go. And then you check in with your head. Because it's when we reorientate ourselves to go heart, gut, head, then we're actually going to make more decisions which are heart-led and soul-aligned to allow us to be on our path that we need to be. And then we can become a leader in our own lives rather than living life dictated by what society expects us to live.
Yeah, you mentioned about people projecting on you, and I've had a lot of that happen to me, but I would do something I later learned was called mirroring. And empaths do this, and they will mirror like bad behavior that's projected toward them. When I realized, I was like, oh my God, I do this. And it becomes, you turn it around on someone, and you treat them the way they're treating you. You're not being mean or anything, but you're just not accepting that behavior and that projection, and it can be uncomfortable for the person because you're mirroring their behavior back to them, and it's not pleasant.
Yeah, I have with a family member, I won't say which one, but whenever I go to their house, I turn into a downright bitch. And I'm like, what is this? This is not me. And it's just the energy in that house and in that space. And it took me a little while to figure it out because I actually started asking questions. And this is such a beautiful thing you can learn to do yourself, is asking, why is this happening? Or why is this happening for me? What does it teach me? What does it mean? And it's through that compassionate inquiry that you can allow that soul to grow, but also to figure out why you're so triggered in that moment. And then, my husband was there as well, and he came back because he went without me because I was working. And my son could feel it too. And he came back and he's like, are they really that bad? And I was like, yeah, they are. I said, you're not imagining it. Like, it is that environment you're being on, like you said, because I was mirroring the bad behavior. I was like, what? This is not me. And it's just because we're energy beings. When you're surrounded by people like that, it does influence your energy more than you actually realize. So you might go, oh, yeah, I feel obligated and I have to go to this family event, but I know it's going to be terrible because of the energy and things like that. Learning to have the courage, the power to say no can make or change your mindset of it, where you can go and go, all right, I'm just going to observe, but as soon as I feel out, I'm going to leave. But if your first initial things are no, and if it's not 100% yes, it's a no, right?
Yeah.
then
I used to
no.
be
Yeah.
more like that, but now I don't know, I just walk through everywhere with like my shields up,
Steward.
and I don't participate. I don't care, not my business. I tell many empaths, it's none of your business what that person's feeling over there, or what this energy is of the person in Publix or the grocery store or whatever. It's none of your business. It
Well,
has nothing
it's
to
so
do with you.
funny. It's so funny how you were saying not to engage, because I bumped into someone the other week, and every time I have a conversation with this person, it's always complaining. And I get sucked into that energy, and then you join the complaining game, and I'm like, actually, no, I don't want to have this conversation. And the last time recently when I just saw that person, I just chose not to respond. I didn't say anything. I didn't give it any weight. I just let it go. And then sure enough, within a couple of minutes, the conversation completely ended, because she couldn't handle that dynamic of not having that complaint reiterized and that sort of thing, And it was just really, really interesting, like being kind of observing the whole thing on the outside, going, oh, sometimes the best thing you can do is not engage or not respond to that text message or not pick up the phone. And it's about training yourself to allow that. I'll have people call me sometimes. I see their name on my phone. I'm like, I'm not in the mindset to answer. I don't want to. It's not feeling right for me. And I'll quickly double check and go, hey, intuition, cool. Should I actually, connect in with this or not? And they'll go, and then if I get a no for that too, I'm like, okay, sometimes it's our head making up stories. And it's always good to check back in with your heart. It's like, am I actually feeling like I don't want to talk to this person, or is my head making up stories as to why I don't want to talk to this person? Really can be a really powerful tool, learning to trust that intuition. But then you might call them back, or you might not call them back. It's about giving yourself that it's okay not to call them back to, so that can be a really powerful contrast. And it takes it takes learning even to say the no without the justification, because when you put the no, so I've learned very well how to say, thank you for the invite, unfortunately it's a no, and just leave it at that. The old me would sit there and write to like a novel as to why I can't. Whereas the new me is just like, it's a no. So, most of the time on Sundays is my family day, so it's a negotiable. No, I don't do anything on Sundays. And people keep inviting me to things on Sundays. This one commitment, I just was like, no, I'm not coming. Oh, but can't you just drop it? No, it's not. Nah, it's not serving my family. Whereas in contrast, I got invited to my friend's 40th, And it was a special one-off occasion on the Sunday. But I actually sat down with my family and I said, hey, I've been invited to this party. Can we swap family day to another day that week? And they're like, yep, that sounds great. Let's do that instead. So, it's about that having non-negotiable, but also knowing that I still need to have that point in my week, but I can be a little bit flexible on changing it when it's something that's really important, that's just the day it's on.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like when you make up your mind on something, like for you, it would be Sunday is just a family day. For some reason, universe just starts testing you on how firm you are
100%,
about
Tina.
that. And
100%.
why does the universe do that?
Because it's making sure that you stay true to your word and take the actions to honor your boundaries. Because if you don't honor that, like, this is my day to do this. If you don't honor that and stick to that, then the universe will go, well, you don't have any conviction. Why are we going to help you move further along on your journey when you can't even keep this simple promise to yourself?
Yeah. We're going to test the seriousness, your commitment to, your Sunday, or throwing like constant invitations.
Oh, I'm very good at saying no now. I have to say I'm incredibly good at saying no. And even like the plea bargains I've had, like, oh, please just can't. No, it's a no. Like, I've already said no. It's still a no. It's still a no. It's just let it go. And sometimes it shows people's true personalities too, because if they don't understand that and they don't accept that, then it's like really hard. And it was funny because my friend has a day like that, but it's her Friday. And I texted her something, not realizing it was Friday because I wasn't in about where it was. And it was kind of a worky question. And I was like, oh, hang on. I've just realized it's Friday and you're spending time with your partner. I was like, please respond to this. Just wait, I apologize, because I'm like, I respect your boundary and she respects my boundary too. So those are the people you want in your life that go, yeah, I get it. I want to support you on that and help you keep moving along. Versus the ones that continually to challenge it, you have to go, you're not really hearing me or understanding what my needs are right now. So I don't know if you're actually aligned to stay in my life.
Oh, yeah. If you keep crossing that boundary and I said, no, please don't do this, or I'm not into this, that's like an end of a friendship to me. I've ended friendships that way.
Same. But most of the time you're in high school. Same thing.
This was like 5 years ago, but I think I was meant to know her because she introduced me to two of my best friends now. So she was really the person, and she introduced me to them. So that's the gift in that. But I was not meant to be friends with her.
And I guess that's where that saying, people come in for a reason, a season, a cycle, or a lifetime, right? So her reason was coming so you could be connected to your best friends now. And then she just left again, and it might be she might cycle back in if she's had her own growth and her own alignment. But if it's meant to happen, it's meant to happen. Otherwise they just drop out of your life. And the amount of times you'll hear people like living on the same street, and as soon as they make that energetic kind of cut, they never see them again, despite living on the same street. But then you'll see someone that lives hours away randomly at a fair.
And then you wonder why. But sometimes the why is because they remind you of something, or you need to talk to them briefly, and there might be something they say or you say that you need to investigate or think about. So, it's beautiful the way the universe works and puts people on your path to give you a nudge or some information or something to keep you going.
100%. Yeah.
Well, I hope everybody listening got a good understanding of what intuition is. And as you can tell, like, we've both been following our intuition for a long time, and it's really fun. It's funny, it's magical. You'll get, messages and hints and from everywhere. from
Mhm.
people, from bumper stickers, wherever you get the message. The universe knows what you've been talking about, knows what you want, and is like always communicating with you.
100%. And it's just choosing to listen. And I think a big thing to remember is that if you ask for a sign, you also have to be open to look for it as well. Because so
Yes.
often people will go, I want a sign. And that parable about the man on the roof and it was flooding. And he prayed to God and said, God, send me someone to save me. So he sends someone by a boat and said, hey, do you want to come on? And he's like, no, I don't. I am waiting for God to save me. He's like, oh, okay. And then, and then God sends a helicopter and he's like, hey, man, climb on. And then he's like, no, I'm waiting for God to save me. And then there was another bit to it. But anyway, and then he gets up to heaven. He's like, God, why didn't you save me? My gosh, man, I sent you a boat. I sent you a helicopter. Like. So you need to be open to receive as well. Like you ask,
right.
but then you also need to be open to receive and be open to look for what the universe puts in front of you.
And you're gonna get signs no matter what, because I did not ask a sign for where to go vacation this summer. It just happened literally in a space of 2 minutes. I saw Alaska and I heard Colorado.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's still 50-50.
Who's gonna win? Well, Catherine, can you share your website and how people can contact you if they, like to work with you? If you have any books or projects or classes coming up, mention those too.
Yeah, thank you, Tina. And I think by the time this episode comes out, I would definitely have my book out. So you can check me out on my website, which is willowhealing.org. I'm also very active on Instagram. So the handle is willowhealingfh. That's also YouTube, where you can find my podcast. It's also on Threads, the same thing. I try and make it consistent so it's easy. But my upcoming book, which should already be out, is called Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice. And it's aimed as really practical tools on how to your intuition, tap into some practices, but also have a guide of how you can actually integrate these guidelines into the life, not just your practice that it might be, because so often we forget that who we are in every aspect of life is how we show up in every aspect of life. Because if you're one person in the clinic or in the healing space and then a different person in the outside world, that is not living in alignment. That is, telling the universe, well, I'm actually not being authentic and being in my present self. So should be available on Amazon, or you can go on the website and find a link to it there as well. And there's also a free call if you want to have a chat with me, and it's a non-sales call. I want to emphasize that, but you can actually sit there and we'll have a conversation and see how we can work through whatever's making you feel stuck in life, whether it's spiritual, business, or anything like that. And we can tap in and see what the next step is for you to get some movement happening again.
And Catherine, you also are a host of your own podcast, so share the name of that too.
Thank you. I always forget that part. So
I know I always forget the podcast. It's like, oh yeah, I'm a host of the podcast too.
Exactly. So my podcast is called Willow Healing Matters, and I interview people from all around the world about alternative healing journeys and pathways to healing as well. So some really powerful and extreme conversations. One week it might be talking about galactic Akashic records. The next might be talking about functional medicine, and I just trust it's all in flow and it all aligns. So yeah, please check it out.
Yeah, well, thank you, Catherine, so much for being on the show. And it's so fun to talk to you. It's like talking to a good friend.
Thank you, Tina. I appreciate that. And yeah, I love it when we can just connect so beautifully. Soul aligned.
Also, yes, soul group, soul family. So all her information is going to be in the show notes. So check that out. And I'm going to add your podcast to my listening list and start downloading episodes.
Thank you. Appreciate that.